Good morning. Welcome to the Report Card Show. I'm Bill Zortman, and this is It's Your Business. Show number is 3888 in our original It's Your Business series. Yes, we know tomorrow is Election Day, and you should vote. Cast your votes after studying who and what the candidates and the issues are. But in this hour, we'll discuss the late changes in the last few days on interest rates, housing, discuss how it affects us here in South Dakota. Before bringing on the head of the Real Estate Association, the Home Builders Association, let's visit with the keynoter of the show, the constant voice through 8 years of report card shows. He never could get out of kindergarten. He is Tony Bachman, Coldwell Banker. Good morning.
Good morning, Bill. Yeah, I appreciate that kindergarten comment. You know, I'm always a kid. I don't really ever want to grow up, so I relate to that.
You know, you're setting us up for what is different in November, what those people buying, selling, financing, and praying do to make the right decisions. Now, we were going to have Brent Adney with us today, but the 32nd Annual Housing Conference is opening today, and Brent said he was a little busy, couldn't even take 2 minutes to talk to us, but show goes on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was to the conference last year where was with speaking there, and I can tell you there's a reason he can't speak this week. That is busy. There's a lot of people at that conference, so yeah. But in the meantime, you know, when we're talking about the market and what's happening and where we're at, I know that there's some uncertainty, some questions that are being asked. We've got a whole lot of questions, and I sent you a page where I had a list of like 10 questions that I get on a regular basis, and so, you know, we could attack that. But, you know, basically it's the U.S. housing market, our housing market. We're undergoing some changes. Of course we are. And a lot of it is due to affordability, you know. And so everybody's trying to wrap their head around that. And who would have guessed that in a process of 1 year that our interest rates would double? And nobody would ever imagine that would happen. And I think, you know, that's probably what's in reference to on the docket when it comes to everything that's happening. The elections tomorrow, it's a huge conversation piece. But to talk about the housing market, there's some good news, and there's some news that, you know, puts us on our heels a little bit. So with that, I would just say that we still are busy. Things are happening, but not at the pace that we were. I have today, I think I've got like 6 files I need to work on when it comes to people who want to buy and people who want to sell. So, you know, it's not like I'm like, because one of the questions, and I'll ruin the question, you know, segment is.
And by the way, Ann Farrell is here.
Yes, and the president of the Realtors Association of the Sioux Empire, and this is her. Well, you might be here for a sit-in later, but you're transitioning power here as of end of this month.
We are.
But one of the questions we're getting is, I bet you're not very busy right now. And I said, based on, and they go, well, you know, nothing can be happening out there in the real estate market. And it's so far from the truth.
It is. This is when we work harder. You know, this is when, you know, you're talking about your files. Well, this is when you're marketing different, you're making more phone calls, you're interacting with more realtors, you're interacting with more builders. We're plowing forward just at a different pace with different tasks.
You know, I see this price point thing that you sent along this morning, and it was like, okay, what the heck do you mean? We hit a few 7 out of 15 price points. What did we hit? What did we miss?
Yeah, so in that, I mean, when we have 15 price points or categories when we're looking at when we do our breakdown, and so out of that 15, I'm just saying that we're recognizing the fact that there's been some changes in 7 of them. So, which is significant. I mean, it's something that we have to pay attention to.
We're seeing higher inventory levels for those that are over $350,000. So, if you are in that position where you're looking for your dream house, you can do it because there are higher inventory levels there. If you're a first-time home buyer and you're looking in that range of up to $350,000, well, it's going to be a little more work, and that's where you're going to spend your time with your agent, really being on the ball, paying attention to what comes on the market.
Those homes are still moving fast, are still getting good activity, still getting good traffic. You know, and even though we're coming into, you know, with Halloween ushered in kind of the holiday season. You know, here we are. But the weather has been favorable for us. I mean, over the last month. I mean, it's made it very easy for people to get out and see things and do things. And so I will say that, you know, if the weather continues to be something like this, not to say it's got to be 50 or 60 degrees, but if we don't have a bunch of snow and ice, we're still going to have people that are coming. I mean, I had an open house yesterday that I had 3 sets of people that came through, and they were not necessarily tire kickers. They're actually looking. I mean, they have a home that they're going to sell. They have a home they want to make a transition. So it's still like one of those things where we're still having these relevant conversations.
We are. I had multiples this week that called and said, I know it's going to take a little longer, so I want you to start now. Come check out my house. I'm going to get it ready for market, and then let's start the process. So people are planning. They know it's going to happen. They're working for it.
All right. Here's the deal. I had a call Friday afternoon from the governor's right-hand campaign person. Said the governor needs to be on your show, 9 o'clock Monday morning. Said, sorry, we've got a report card show. And I will tell you that what's happening in housing right now might be a little more concerning to more people than what I'm saying. So if you were telling the governor what we need in housing in South Dakota, what would the two of you be telling her in this conversation? Ann?
Well, I think the first thing is this last year the legislature approved the $200 million workforce housing. That hasn't even been tapped yet. So it's time to let the system work for that so that workforce housing money can get out to the people and the communities that need it and have applied for it.
Tony?
Yep. Similar. I mean, I think when we're talking about inventory of homes, and even though that people are thinking that nothing's happening, we still have very low inventory.
Yep.
So if I'm going to just, and because I think people relate to numbers in reference to, so when inventory homes for sale in October of 2020, we had little over 1,500 homes. And then we go to 2021, we still had about 1,400 homes. Today, or this October, we had about 1,100. So that's a pretty significant drop when you're looking at the percentage of inventory. So,
and I think to add to that, Tony, especially when we have 7,000 people moving into the community in a year, we have way more people moving in. So then that you really impact by that.
And so and then the other thing is like days on market are still down. I mean, in 2020 it was 81 days to what time you list a house to time you sell it. 2021 it was down to 73. Here we are in 2022. We're at 62 days. Yeah. So when we're talking about dispelling this apprehension, there's reality behind the metrics here, and the reality is that we still have a fairly good demand. I understand that the affordability is putting a pinch on people when they're looking at interest rates. Obviously, it's going to put a pinch on anybody, but they still need a place to live. They still need to, have some place to, hang their hat at the end of the day.
Well, as we look at all this, people are still asking, is this a favorable time for me to do something in the marketplace? Or, like it used to be, we wait until spring.
Oh, I wouldn't wait till spring. You know what? You can get in now and have your holidays in your new home. And the reality is life will shift. So we can refinance in the spring if we need to. But if the house you really want is available now, you're going to have more competition to find that perfect house next spring. I'd start now.
Yeah. And that's kind of the conversation I have with people in reference to, we try to figure out what's best for them. Yep. And maybe the answer is yes. We wait till next spring. It could be. But in many cases, it doesn't mean that that's the best case scenario.
Exactly.
Because what they'll end up doing is they say, well, my lease is up in, January, and, maybe I just sign up for another, 6 to 12 month lease. Well, then you may have missed the market. You may have missed your opportunity.
Yep.
And you can always refinance, down the road, because everything they're telling us is that these interest rates, they may be relatively high now, but they will drop in the future moving forward. Right. So you could refinance.
We had a gentleman that talked to Norm this morning, and he said what he wants to know is the difference in what he would have paid for a house per month 3 years ago compared to today. And again, I guess let's talk about the same house, same part of town, what it was like. Let's see, this is 2022, 2019 to 2020, the kind of price that we might see, and what is an average price home in the difference in the 3 years?
So great question, but there's two metrics to look at here. One is the 2019 interest rates were higher.
Yep.
They were still up there in that, 5s and possibly even 6. But your price on your average price per home, and I can actually give you the median price per home in my myriad of notes I have here. In 2020, I'm sorry I can't go to 2019.
That's okay.
In front, but in 2020, they would have paid on a median price was about $239,000 at approximately, let's just say somewhere around 5.5% to 6%. Versus today, that median price home is $293 with interest rates. I mean, today's interest rates are somewhere around 8, maybe more, and they might even go to 9. Very significant difference. I mean, that's where when people waited on the sidelines saying they're just going to wait for something to change. Well, it changed okay, but I'm just going to go out on a limb when I just do voodoo math. I'm going to say back in 2020, they were probably paying somewhere around, 13, 14, let's just say somewhere around $1,500. Today, they're paying probably close to $2,200 to $2,300. So about a $700 difference on a median price home. And many people, when they're looking at what they're paying now versus what they were paying, it's on average anywhere from $500 to $1,200 a month more for your mortgage payment because of interest.
The other thing that I would mention,
but that was a great question.
The other part of this is people say, "Well, I'll just rent." Those rents have gone up from 2020 to 2022. Wouldn't you agree,
Yes, they have.
Ann?
Absolutely. They've gone up. And, as we've said many times on this show, you're building equity when you own. You have that ability to build equity in your home and build your personal wealth versus paying somebody else's mortgage for them.
Yeah, I always tell people to look at it from this perspective, this lens, is that so at the end of 2 years or 3 years of renting, you've paid in X amount per month versus 2 or 3 years of owning. And now let's just use this median price example they just gave. Back in 2020, when someone had bought that home that was somewhere around $239,000, now that home might be worth somewhere around $260 to $275, and they go to sell it. How much did that house really cost you per month? It paid you. It was an investment.
It was an investment.
So, I mean, and I think even no matter what the interest rates and no matter what it's still the same case. You've got to live someplace, and you still have to pay the monthly, fees. Well, why not have that house is working for you?
Well, here's the advice I would give to the listeners. Find somebody that you trust in real estate, the mortgage side. If you're buying and building a house in the housing side, there are experts out there. Find somebody you trust. Would you agree, Ann?
100%. It's what we do every day.
Yep. Well, and the stat is that everybody we know typically knows about 10.3 real estate agents.
Right.
So it's not like you only know the one agent. Everybody knows it. You just have to find one that resonates with you. I mean, it's one of those that who is it you trust? Who do you feel is informed? Who's the person that's going to give you good information so you can make an educated decision? Yeah. And there's many agents that we work with that have that ability to do that.
Absolutely.
He's Tony Bachman, the keynoter, and you're with who?
Coldwell Banker, Tony Bachman Group here in Sioux Falls.
All right, we'll talk soon.